together with Sean Thompson, right here, wave, and William Moody. Where are you, William? Back. We together chair the entertainment, the Business, Entertainment, and Law Council for the Century City Chamber of Commerce. That's who's putting on this program today. And we try to prepare programs and present them that we think are relevant to the community. And one of our speakers today, David Herman, who's been a very active member of the chamber in prior years, had this idea, and he'll explain more about it when he's talking about. He just sat through some pitches, and I guess a lot were really horrible. So he said, we need to do something, and this would be good. So we all jumped in. Being a lawyer, I thought it was great, because I give the pitches many times, and I've been on the other end, too. And there's a lot of things that are involved in giving a pitch, and it really does require strategic thinking and planning, and we'll hear about that today. We're really fortunate to have a great panel, and they're all very experienced in this. And to my immediate right is Diane Reichenberger, who I've known for years. Diane is currently the VP of Global Strategy for Consumer Products and Promotional Partnerships at Mattel. Excuse me. Prior to that, she's had many positions in strategic branding. She's really an expert in that, in licensing. She was, among many things, she was president of LA Gear. She was CEO of Dual Star Entertainment. You remember that's the Olsen twins started that company. And she was COO of Rocket Republic. So in her position, she has interviewed and fired many professionals. So we'll hear from her today. To Diane's right is Jonathan Fitzgerald. And Jonathan currently is the founder and managing partner of Equinox Strategy Partners. And he provides service professionals and firms with strategic counsel to drive revenue and increase market visibility. And prior to this current company that he owns, he directed the sales and marketing at several major law firms. To his right is David Herman. David is the founder and co-managing partner of Diamond Capital Advisors, an investment banking firm. David has a long history of buying and selling businesses and advising companies in the sale and purchase of businesses. And he really understands the value drivers that attract buyers. And he, in his role, many times for his clients, helps interview and select professionals that are going to be hired. And then it's he who had the idea of this panel today. And to David's immediate right is David Ackert, who's the president and founder of Ackert Advisory. And he is the business development mentor to many high achievers in the legal profession. Over the past 2 decades, I think David has advised thousands of lawyers on overcoming business development and marketing challenges. And I have to say, I've worked with every one of these people except Jonathan, and they're all fabulous. And Jonathan I've heard about for years as being fabulous, so from other people who know. So I think we're very fortunate. So we're going to start with some questions, and it's going to be a free-flow discussion. We're going to try to leave 10 minutes at the end for any questions, but Sean has some little notes that, have you already passed them out? Or?
That's not, they're on the table.
Okay, they're on the table, so if you don't want to ask, if you just want to write your question down as you're thinking of things, and then he'll collect them maybe around 9 o'clock, and then when we get closer to the end, we can read them, and sometimes people are more comfortable that way than asking questions verbally. So, let's get started. Let me find my notes. Okay, so Diane, why don't you start with kind of what the purpose is of having companies pitch, and what are you looking for?
Sure. Well, I've had the lucky privilege of, when I've run a couple of different companies, having the opportunity to meet with a lot of different law firms and financial services advisors for the owners of the companies that I work for. And one of the things that was really significant for us in choosing the firm was that people came knowing what we needed and knowing about our company and knowing what we did. They did their research, they did their homework, they investigated a little bit about myself and other people that were stakeholders in the organization, and invited us to come to their offices. Provided the transportation to come to the offices, and then really actually sat down and pitched us in a way that I knew they understood our business. And they were extremely authentic about that. And you know, you can find a lot of great services with a lot of great people, but how you connect with them, that personal connection was so important for us. And I wanted to make sure it was someone that I could trust. And again, when you're meeting somebody for the first time and you're entrusting with them so much about the success of your business, and the future of your business, and the key stakeholders within the organization. For myself, as Robin mentioned, Ashley and Mary Kate Olson, obviously I worked for them, they own the company. I wanted to make sure that they had great advisors and people we could trust. And that was one of the key things, was that they actually came and had done the research and were really providing, and had listened to what I asked them that we needed. And then they came full guns, and we hired Robin's firm. That's how we met.
So I obviously pitched okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a great looking office with a great view, and that was key.
So rent an office. If you have a junky office, rent a nice office.
Right.
To Diane's point, Harvard Business Review did a study, and they found that likability is more important than experience and education when getting hired or promoted. How many of us think about that when we go into a pitch situation? By the way, a pitch doesn't have to be a formal, sit down, prospects on one side of the table, you're on the other. It could be a breakfast, it could be a lunch, it could be an interaction at a networking event. Those are all pitches, folks. So how do you be more likable? All of us in the room are probably capable enough to do for our clients and prospects what they want us to do. Do they want to work with you day in and day out? Again, likability isn't the guy or the gal that has the latest joke all the time, but it's being more curious about the other individual than you are about yourself. It's listening more than talking. It's all these other things that sends the message, hey, I'm here to serve you, and I'm interested in getting to know you and how I can best customize my services so that you feel you're my only client.
Let me ask you about that, because I've been at different pitches, and sometimes in my business there's a bunch of different companies pitching at the same time. And you'll see one that's like serving muffins and coffee, and one, what do you really look at? If someone's, because there's also a phoniness to it too, right? That you, I'm sure, are trying to decipher. If it's likability, everyone's smart that's there, but if someone gives you like a ticket to a game or is serving you a good breakfast, is that going to really change your feeling about them?
I think one of the downsides that I see all the time with professional services folks is they will go to a pitch, and if they've got an hour worth of time, they spend the first 45 minutes talking about themselves, their pedigree, their background, how great they are, how resourced they are. The best pitch that I've ever seen and that I advise my clients on all the time is to sit down and say, listen, it's great to be here with you folks. We're happy to spend some time to go into our background if you'd like. But really what is most interesting to us is, and they jump right into a question about the person or the company that they're in front of. Again, whoever you're meeting with has probably done their due diligence to find out who you are. That's why you're in the room. Don't spend 45 more minutes telling them about how great you are. I just don't think it's going to end well, and I see it 99% of the time.
David, you look like you want to say something.
I'm just nodding. I think he's right.
Say, David.
Thank you, Jonathan. You've been blessed. No, I think, I was just nodding because I'm thinking back. I'm going to be the first to cop to, I have been that guy who's talked for 45 minutes about themselves, right? In my early years, I gave a lot of really lousy pitches. And I'm thinking, what was going on for me? Like, what was I thinking? I did that thing. And what occurs to me is I was just nervous and I didn't have a game plan. Right? Like, if you don't know what the roadmap is, then the default is, well, talk about yourself, and maybe you'll somehow convince them that you're wonderful and they'll hire you. And I think that, we're going to get there, Robin, with some of your questions, but having some sort of structure will help you avoid the pitfall that Jonathan has described, I think, so well.
The question we all have to ask ourselves is, do we really believe that we can help the client and we're the best at it than all the competition? If you believe that, then you've got to go into that pitch with everything you've got, because the one thing that I've heard in so many cases when you don't get chosen is the client was an idiot. They didn't choose me. Well, the reason why they didn't choose you is not because of the client, but because of you. The fault lies in us. When we don't win the account, it's our fault. And all the things that we talk about today are, a lot of them are going to be conceptual because we don't have like 4 days to go over this. But the key is, if you really believe that you are the best, then all these things are going to be really important. You're going to concentrate on them. You're going to concentrate on the fact that you don't have an hour and a half of attention. You've got, at the most, 1 hour. So if you're wasting any of that time on side issues, or you're wasting any of that time telling a joke, forget it. You're going to lose this pitch.
Sometimes you have 10
every
minutes.
minute.
Sometimes you have 10 minutes. If there's a lot of people, you're given 10 minutes, you've really got to get to the point.
You've got to be memorable quickly.
Can you just talk twice as fast and then you essentially have 2 hours? Because that works too.
That's right.
David, don't put the mic down yet, because I'd like you to start, if you would, talking about how you properly prepare for a pitch.
What's it? I didn't hear. Prepare.
Listening is the #1 key. How do
We'll
you
get to
properly
that.
prepare for a pitch?
Okay, the first thing is, the way that I prepare is I want to prepare in finding out what not to say in the meeting. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but there are certain things you want to avoid in a meeting. And certainly if the person is a dog lover, you don't want to make a point about you don't like animals, something like that. So I'm always looking for things to avoid so that I don't say something to ruin the flow of the pitch, because I have seen so many times that people do that. They get off on tangents, and the business owner is not interested in that. The good news is that everything is online, so you can find out where they went to school, you can find out what their hobbies are, you can go to, oftentimes, their company, there's a profile on them, where they went to school, maybe even their sorority or fraternity is important, if they played a sport someplace, or if they have a hobby. All these things, I wouldn't concentrate on them, but you know at least what to avoid or what to bring up. If you can come up with an analogy, which is what I try to do, an analogy of something that is involved with your pitch, that has something to do with their background, it clicks right away with them. But you don't know that unless you do some research. The other thing you have to do research on is, what is it, why are they hiring you? Why are they even in the room? Why are you in the room? What are you supposed to be doing there? I've seen so many times when people go off on tangents, and the client says, well, I don't know, I'm not interested in that. That's not why I hired you. I think that if you're an attorney, let's just say, the reason why they hire an attorney is to reduce their stress, not to be an expert in the field. That's just my theory. I think that a client wants to know, what are you going to do so I don't have to worry about this?
I was working with a client on preparing for a pitch, and we did tons of research online. We would just Google the individual's name. He was the head of a large bank, and it seems like financial institution professionals try to keep everything offline as possible. But we were able to dig and dig and dig, and we learned that this guy had an affinity for small miniature war toys, to the point where he actually had a blog, and he blogged about these miniature war soldiers. It was bizarre, but it was him. I provided this content to the professional that was going to go pitch, and the professional even looked at me like, this guy's into miniature toys? Hey, it is what it is. Anyway, it just so happened in the pitch, which was over lunch, this attorney that I had prepared the research for brought up the fact, somehow he weaved it into the conversation, that he knew that this bank executive was interested in these military toys, and even had a blog on it. This guy was so taken back that we had done our homework on him, that we knew we were up in front of 5 or 6 different firms for the business. We ended up getting the business, and we later asked him why we were different from the pack, and he said, I just felt like you knew me better. So don't always feel like the research that you do on a prospect has to be business related. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want to relate on a human level, and it may be an affection for animals or a nonprofit or miniature war toys that makes the connection and you win the pitch.
What about?
Follow that, Robin.
Yeah, that was great. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
How about preparing materials or handouts for a pitch? How do you guys feel about that?
You know, I think we have to be careful because part of what we're doing here is trying to give you a framework, and at the same time, this can turn into too much of a mechanical exercise if you forget to just be present and connect with the other person. And I think that, you know, great, you learned that he loves to paint miniatures. If you can show something that you also love to do that may be a little geeky, then you've got a real connection, right? So I think a lot of it here is do the research. Jonathan, I think, knows this person. We have a friend named Sam McKenna who says, show me that you know me. And I love that she sort of makes it rhyme, because then I always remember it, right? Show me that you know me. So she does this research, she finds out these things about it, but then she tries to work that into a conversation that's going to be natural, that's going to just allow both parties to deepen the relationship. So I would be a little bit wary if somebody came to a meeting, I've prepared some materials for us to review. It's like, okay, we just changed the whole tone of this thing. Now again, if it's Jonathan said, if it's the prospects are on one side and you're on the other side, and it's a formal pitch and it's an institutional account, well then of course you have to show up prepared, you have to show up with that professional sort of decorum in place. But I think you also want to use your instincts too, right? Maybe part of the research is just calling ahead to find out what kind of pitch is this going to be, right? I mean, is this more of a meet and greet, or is this really where we're showing our capabilities? Are they looking for statistics and research, and do we need to have pulled all of the information online to show them that we actually have that research in advance, or is this more of a needs-finding kind of a mission, in which case it's going to be more exploratory in nature? So I just don't want to go in saying, well, always bring your materials. Of course that's the right answer, because I think it really does depend on the scenario.
Can I just add something? I was also going to say, I think when you're going in, if you have the materials, like you've done the research, you have it in your back pocket, because then if you haven't been able to garner all the information that you think you need about who you're meeting with or what the purpose is, be prepared for anything, so that if you get to that point, or they quickly just want to get to the point, you can pull it out and then you know, whatever you've prepared. But that preparation is so key. I think I always like to have, like, if someone, we're going along and I like them, and I'm like, okay, what have you got to show me? And then it's like, oh, I thought it was just a meet and greet, but it's gone so well so quickly, because all of you will now have all these great tools, and they'll want to get right to the point, and you want to be prepared for that too. You don't want to say, oh, I'll have to come back to you, I thought this was then it's like, no.
I actually will give you a specific hint of what we do, is we always prepare something written, but we never refer to it in the meeting. You should have all the facts in your head so that